All right, welcome to the Stoic Agent podcast. I actually have my first guest on the Stoic Agent podcast. So we moved from coach and role play to the Stoic Agent, as I believe that the Stoic principles are really something that's going to add more value to our community. And speaking about adding value to the community, I got Dixon himself, a long lost friend. We met a few years back, and good to see you on the podcast, man.
Great to be here, Alex. Appreciate everything you do and adding value to the agents out there. So really excited to be here today and have a great conversation with you.
Cool, man. Well, I've been looking forward to this, and I'm like, okay, because Jake is for those of you who don't know out there, he's going to get into his background, but he's a very high level coach, runs a high level coaching company, and so I'm like, man, no, I got to craft this. But ultimately, I'm actually going to get down to four main principles. We're good after we dig into give the audience a little bit of background on you. I know you have go all the way back, man, to your baseball stuff, and eventually kind of full circle into the locker room.
Yeah, of course. I'll be relatively brief as possible here, but so my background, like Alex said, is in baseball. I was a college and professional baseball player, and after a reoccurring injury, I decided, you know what, it's probably time to hang things up and actually get like a real job and move on with my life. And so I got into real estate, starting with new home construction for Lennar Homes. Did that for a number of years, then found myself moving and at Keller Williams Realty at the time. And I started as a brand new agent with KW. Sold my first home like the day after I got licensed. So it was pretty quick. And I got the tap on the shoulder. I got a call one weekend from our owner saying, hey, I want you to come into my office. So I'm thinking like, oh, crap, what did I do? I'm getting sued. I messed the contract up. What's going on? And she proceeded to tell me, no, it's a good thing. I want to interview you to be the team leader of the office. And I'm like, dude, I'm the new guy. Where's the camera? What's going on here? I've sold one home. Okay. And so long story short, I became the TL, like the CEO of the office. Did that for 2 years, got an opportunity to move to a top 20 office down in North Carolina. So I moved my family there, became the team leader there for a year. And then fast forward, I found my real true calling and passion. It was not recruiting. It wasn't managing staff and running an office. It was coaching, sitting across the table with an agent like Alex, really understanding what is your why? What is your passion? What is this all for? What are your goals? How can I help you achieve them? And so I got into coaching, and within the first 6 months, according to my coach at the time, we had grown the number one largest and most successful coaching program inside of this organization. And it was just our hair on fire. I was just excited. And it shows what passion and enthusiasm can do, even if you don't have it all figured out just yet. But I was smart enough to have a bigger idea in mind, and that was more of an expansion platform. So within 2 years at this same company, we had taken and documented everything I was doing, bottled it up so others could replicate it, and we had close to 200 offices just in the first 2 years. And as they say, it's history ever since. Now we help all brokerages, all brands. We're brand agnostic, have helped tens of thousands of agents, hundreds of broker owners, and it still feels like we're just getting started figuring this thing out. So.
Incredible, man. What a story. Now, what do you think that owner saw in you? I mean, did they just see talent and they said, wow, if this guy can sell a house in a day, he could lead a market center? What did that conversation look like?
Yeah, I had a lot of limiting beliefs around this. I seriously, after the self-deprecating humor, I'm like, no, seriously, why me? I'm not looking for a backhanded compliment, but I don't get it on paper. And she proceeded to explain that she, quote unquote, observed my participation in class. She had watched me on Facebook for a couple of months. I had grown other successful businesses, big network marketing downline, had an indoor baseball training facility that I started from scratch. So it's not like I wasn't used to running a business and understanding that. But when it came to real estate specifically, I didn't have what you might otherwise look for on a resume. In fact, per this company's assessment, I was a 0.52 medium fit to be a coach, like not supposed to be a coach, right? Kind of thing. Sure. You're probably on a different seat on the bus. So anyways, I think at the end of the day, she saw my track record of success. Anything I do it exceptionally well. I don't know how to lose. That might come across as very arrogant, but I don't know how to lose. And so you're going to get the best of the best and my full undivided attention and effort at whatever it is I'm doing. And I think she saw that. Plus, I think I can easily connect with people. I can love on them hard enough, and until their own broker screws up, and then I'm the first person they think of to call.
Incredible. So that person obviously saw some talent and actually did their research on you and said, they obviously saw something more than one sale. They weren't just going by that. That's top notch to be able to see talent, right?
Well, I guess for your listeners and even for yourself, look, everybody's entitled to their opinion. If you're into coaching or getting training from people like myself, to each their own. And some people are frightened or may say things in Facebook groups about the fact that somebody like me, I've sold one home. Well, how could he coach? How could he help somebody like Alex who does amazing business and a production? Look, I don't know. I can go to the old cliche examples of Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, and all the greats, Tom Brady. Did their coaches ever get to that level? So there's no right or wrong. If you're looking for somebody, I think it's more important for training to have been there and done it. But for coaching, those who actually understand what coaching is, it's the art of asking questions and help people self-discover their own answers and hold them accountable to those. It's a whole different art. Coaching is compared to what most people think, which is professional advice giving.
So when we talk about professional coaches, and you obviously were professionally coached with baseball, what is the difference, would you say, between, say, coaching baseball, where they're not asking questions? Are they more of a trainer coach saying, hey, you moved your foot here, you need to have your knuckles on the ball there, as opposed to the real estate side? Give me a little bit of texture into that, kind of maybe the difference between a baseball coach and a real estate coach.
Such a great question. You're talking my language, man. You're right. A coach in the baseball or sports world is more like I'm managing a team. I'm more of a manager of people, and I hope to inspire them to do their best. Yes, there's teaching certainly that comes along the way, but here's the best parallel I've figured out and why I love baseball so much. So check this out. So baseball is a game of failure. Even if you're not into sports, softball for that matter, same thing, just to be fair, right? Where the Hall of Famers succeed, 3 out of 10 times, right? That means I'm failing 7 out of 10. And to my knowledge, it's the only sport where the defense is actually in control of the ball. Any other sport, the person who's in control of the ball is the offense, okay? No wonder it's such a hard game. And here's what I've learned. When I was giving baseball lessons to kids, let's say I'm working with a 12-year-old, the same way I'm teaching that kid how to grip a bat or hold a ball, the fundamentals, let's call it, are no different than what the guys on TV are doing, earning millions of dollars a year. The game doesn't change. The fundamentals don't change. What happens is the game speeds up. So instead of me throwing 55 miles an hour in Little League, now they're throwing 95 miles an hour saying, here, hit this. But guess what? Nothing changed about the game. It just sped up. So whether I'm working with an agent who's struggling just to close 12 homes a year, or somebody who's striving to close 212 homes a year, the game doesn't freaking change. It just speeds up. So the blocking and tackling, the fundamentals, is what I've taken from baseball, and I just have a super simplistic approach how I coach to the real estate game, knowing that the fundamentals don't change. It just might speed up the game.
I love that, man. We talked a little bit off camera about this, about the principles of Stoicism. And, what comes up for me there is you need to have courage to be able to fail and keep going back. So can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, that game, you really have to have thick skin. You really have to say, if I strike out 7 out of 10 times, that's good. I get on base 3 times or get the hits, whatever you guys do with the ERAs and all that kind of stuff. But I know that batting 300 gets you into the Hall of Fame, to your point there. It takes a lot of courage to continue to fail and move forward. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then maybe for those real estate agents out there to have the fortitude, the courage to keep going?
You got to have, absolutely. You got to have a short memory. Whether it's a sport or in real estate, you're going to have failure. You're going to hear this all the time, and it's true. I got to fail my way forward, right? If you're failing, guess what? There's probably some great success coming your way. So failure, I just want to hit on that real quick. Fear, let's go there. Fear is not a bad thing. Fear is nothing to be ashamed of, because I associate fear and courage kind of in the same grouping. Think of it this way. Consider back in like Stone Age era, right? The old Native Americans and Neanderthals or whatever, okay? Imagine us huddled up in the cave. We just got our fire going, we're hungry, and now in that cave, I hear something rustle around in those bushes outside of my cave. And I'm thinking, what the heck is that? Is that thing going to try and eat me, or am I going to eat it? It's fight or flight. You eat what you kill here, okay? And so if we just pause in that moment, actually look fear square in the eye, okay? Fear is a protection mechanism. Fear is not bad. Fear is a protection mechanism looking out for you. So here's what that dialogue with yourself could sound like. Hey, Jake, I don't want to make these 10 phone calls right now to lead generate because I don't want to feel slimy and salesy and that phone looks like it weighs 10,000 pounds. That would be a fear or somewhat of a conditioned response to fear that typical agents might experience. But instead of that, you might say, hey, Jake, look, all you're going to do is talk to 10 people today and ask them how they're doing. How can you add value to their life? Is there any errand you need to run for them? Like, whatever. That's not scary, okay? So I appreciate you sticking your head out here, Mr. Fear, but I'm going to be okay. So I'll see you next time. Pick up the phone, dial, right? So this whole courage thing is doing it in spite of fear, doing it because you know your compelling future, your family, other people who are depending on you to show up is worth it. It's do it anyway attitude. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, make the call. Let's go.
Love that, man. That is definitely the definition of courage, is to move forward in the face of fear, right? You could talk about war. You got to be the most scared ever, and you charge forward. That's the ultimate around it. Or the bear outside the cave. It is a protection mechanism to keep us alive. The old Tony Robbins is that, that becomes the phone is the tiger. I love that, man. So when we talk about that, and working with a coach, and I highly recommend anybody that, we are all about here developing people's skills and helping them grow their real estate careers and maybe their lives as well. I want to talk a little bit about wisdom. We talked about this a little bit earlier. It's, again, one of the principles I think that, really melds into helping a real estate agent grow. And what do we mean by that? The wisdom to say, hey, I don't know, and putting ego aside and saying, I want to learn from someone else. That's wise. My dad always said, hey, you're smart if you learn from your mistakes, but be wise and learn from mine. And I always took that with me. So can you talk about a little bit about that, about how you can actually compress time as well, learning from others and not being so like, I know it all type deal?
Yeah. Well, we all have ego, and sometimes it serves us, sometimes it doesn't serve us. And what I think you're referencing can be best put, or at least how I try and communicate this in, I'm such a personal growth junkie. So if you guys are listening to this, I've got to believe we're cut from the same cloth. You don't just go listen to a podcast, right? You're probably also reading books, attending conventions, engaging in your team or your office. So hats off to you, first of all. But with that being said, that's why I've got bookshelves, my audible.com. I'm sure you're the same, Alex, because that is somebody's life work. Those 200 pages that make up that book, that's 50 years of their life compressed into 200 pages. So if I can read and then apply and understand the lessons and principles from things like books, opening my mind to the perspective of other people, that can be an insanely valuable thing. And like you said, lessen the growth, the growth curve or time it takes for you to accelerate your business or life wherever you intend on taking it. And so I think that's why I know for us at Locker Room, we take a very collaborative approach. It's not about me. It's not about any one individual. It's about us, because we can go further, faster together. And so if we can get over our own egos and stop worrying about who's right and the need to be right and consider other perspectives, you might be shocked as to how quick you go from A to Z. If you're selling 12 homes right now, you're going to hear it all the time. Maybe your goal is to get to 25 units. Awesome. What's the quickest way? One of the quickest ways is to surround yourself with people banging out 25 or more homes a year. Call it osmosis or call it I'm the average of the 5 people I surround myself with, but there's something about it that if you want to get to a certain level, find people at that level and wiggle your way into their inner circles.
Man, I so dig that holistic approach. And you said it. If you talk to any top producer, they are not just sitting there. Scripting is great. Role play is great. Definitely want to do it. When I want to talk about that a little bit later into temperance. But ultimately, the holistic approach of wisdom is learning from all these different places, from learning from this podcast or this book and conventions and so forth. Man, we are cut from the same cloth. And if you're out there watching, this is being cut from that same cloth. You're consuming, years of wisdom, if you will, because I've learned a lot of stuff the hard way, unfortunately, but sometimes those lessons have been the best. So shifting gears here a little bit, man, into temperance. So temperance is putting off, and you mentioned the 5 people. So sometimes it's actually maybe kind of taking some of those people out of your life. So that can be temperance, and that can be like, it's pleasurable to be around that buddy that makes you laugh all the time, or your friend that she like always has the best thing to say or what have you, but really doesn't align with where you want to go. So sometimes temperance can be taking people out of your life, or maybe just saying, hey, less of them, less of this substance, less of this content. Can you talk a little bit about that and that holistic approach? Because it sounds like that is a way, your philosophy as well.
So not only does Alex dress way better than me, but he's also way smarter than me because he uses big and fancy words. So I had to have him define what temperance means. So I see this, I'm joking with you, of course.
Yeah.
It's a bit of character. When I hear you speak of that, and it's the whole kind of definition of what is character. It's what you do when no one's looking, right? So many times we put our highlight reel out there on Facebook or wherever, seeking approval, seeking likes and comments and feeling good. And yet and there's nothing wrong with that, first, to a degree, okay? But what we're actually talking about here is that restraint. Saying, you know what, it's what I do when no one's looking. It's Michael Phelps swimming for 16 hours a day in that swimming pool that you and I don't see for 4 years. All we get to see for 30 seconds every 4 years was him getting another gold medal around his neck. Oh, I want that. No, you don't. Just like so many agents who start this business say things like, I want to earn 6 figures. Well, let's go there. Do you really? Because once you identify what it takes to get there, your calendar, your work ethic might be that of a $30,000 a year earner. And yet you say, I want to earn $100,000. The audio ain't matching the video here. And I'm not being judgmental. I'm just calling a spade a spade. I'll get behind any goal, whatever we set the goal as long as you can show me the plan and commitments you're willing to make along the way. And to me, that speaks to temperance. It's resisting the urges, resisting the temptations and distractions, and just holding up, doing the work, showing up every day, even when nobody's watching, or it might not be the most popular or exciting thing. Last thing, I know I'm getting long-winded. So we have a thing at the locker room called the 5 to 25 challenge, because we believe it's the simplest formula, simplest path for an agent to earn 6 figures, because everybody says that's what they want, right? All it is, Alice, you and I chunk things down all the time for goal setting. Imagine this. 5 conversations a day for 5 days a week for 50 weeks out of the year. Do the math majors. That's 1,250 real estate conversations in a year. Okay? Now, I have tracked this religiously for 7 years, and I work with largely lesser experienced, newer agents. They have a 50-to-1 conversion ratio, otherwise known as a 2% conversion. So if I talk to 1,250 people, 5 a day, okay, for the entire year, apply 2% to that. What does that get you? That gets you 25 sales. 25 sales. You are now in the top 3%, according to NAR, of producing agents. 25 or more sales. Congratulations. You're netting a 6-figure income, not grossing, netting a 6-figure income. Here's the whole tie-in to this temperance thing. That's what it looks like. In practical terms, it's not just doing 5, 5, 5, and oh my gosh, now I got 3 listings and 2 buyers. It's 5, 5, 5, no matter what, as a non-negotiable with yourself, because that's the unsexy stuff. That's the boring, repetitious stuff that I'm just getting my reps in every day, breaking a mental sweat. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me speaks to that point. Maybe I totally took it off base, but what are your
No, man, I want to dig deeper into that. I think you're really onto something. So we talked about it offset before. That temperance is, you outlined it right there. So here's the path for a year, and you gotta play the long game here, right? Like, this is the long game. This is not, hey, I want to get my check at the end of the week, so I'm going to work 40 hours and get my check at the end of the week. You have to think that long game. But I love how you laid it out, man. 5 to 25. Can you speak a little bit into temperance as well? And some courage comes in there too, to go into role play, so that, hey, those 5 conversations that you have really have the substance in them to create that 2% conversion ratio.
We come from similar backgrounds here. I'm big into it. The realtor's top 5 things that makes up their job description every day: lead generate, lead follow up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, script and role play. That's your job description. Notice the last one was script and role play. That's getting the reps in. So forgive me in advance by using so many sports analogies. It's just how I'd roll. So a couple years ago, short story, I was watching the Major League All-Star break home run derby. Every year they have the home run derby, right? So Pete Alonso from the New York Mets won the home run derby that year, but about halfway through, the camera on ESPN found him underneath the stadium in the batting cage tunnel in the middle of a home run derby, placing a freaking ball on a tee, just taking cuts. A ball on a tee. He wasn't dropping his shoulder, trying to lift it, hit it out of the park, just getting the reps in. Those guys take 300 to 500 swings every day off of a tee. Nobody knows that, okay? So what's my point? It's the mastery towards something. It's going underneath the tunnel, not for the glitz, the glamour, the recognition, because it's what it takes to master the fundamentals. So what we see when he's out there on the field is holding up a big trophy, right? So I think I took that off script. What was your...
No, I don't think you did. I think, I say it sometimes, man, and let's just be real here. I think people, some agents have been lied to. I think HGTV, to your reference earlier about the highlight reel, that they have a false idea. You just laid out the 5, what your job description is. And, a lot of people want to get to the contract negotiation. A lot of people want to even get to the appointment, but they don't want to do the role play and the reps of lead generating to get to the contract, to get to the right. So, I think that's spot on, man. It's the reps. And I think that's one of the things that I'm trying to really convey here, is to get yourself a coach, get out of whether it is just for accountability and also to get your skills up, and put aside that $500 or whatever it is that is an incredible investment in the locker room, rather than the shots on the Friday night or buying the Gucci purse or whatever. Invest in yourself. But part of that is putting the ball on a tee 300 to 500 times a day.
Yeah. Can I say something else to that? Sorry, I got my...
Don't say so. Hey, man, this is open forum, man. We're having fun here. Go for it.
Yeah.
Let loose.
So there's a quote out there. I don't know who said it, but it's like, today, are you willing to do what others won't? So tomorrow you can do the things that others can't. And that's really what you're saying, right? So take my example there. To your point, that was the point of the scripting, the role playing, the practice. Get in the practice. I think of Allen Iverson. We talking about practice. Yeah, we are talking about practice, because that's where games are actually won, is in practice. If you play at game speed, what does LeBron James or Michael Jordan say at the buzzer beater shot at the end of the game when they get interviewed? When they're asked about it, they say things like, the game just slowed down for me. I felt like I was there 10,000 times. I've taken that shot in my mind 10,000 times. The game slowed down for me. That's what the greats say. So if you're not scripting and role playing, you're practicing on your clients. How's that working for you? So back to the 5 to 25 thing. I work with so many agents that, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, but they complain, okay, about not having enough time. And yet they're unwilling to invest the time in the right things like script and role play to be better. Yeah. So check this out. If you're making 50 contacts a day and you're still not getting anything, might be a skill set issue. Might be a skill set issue because you're putting in the hours, so you're putting in the work. On 5 to 25, I could coach somebody like Alex with the same thing, and he's very successful in real estate. Dude knows what he's talking about. But I could still go to Alex and say, hey, Alex, 5 a day for 5 days a week for 50 weeks out of the year. But now the variable in our little Excel formula here is not 2%, because I can assure you all he's got a much higher conversion rate than just 50 to 1. What if his conversion rate was 5%? 5 out of 100 people say, yes, or I know somebody who wants to buy or sell. Just 5. I didn't say more was the answer. I'm a time on task over time guy. I'm all about consistency. Alex can still apply the 5 a day for 5 days a week for 50 weeks out of the year, but if we go tinker with that other variable, the conversion rate from 2% to 5%, that's a $500,000 a year formula without doing any more work. He just got better. That's the point.
I love that point. And I think it's going to go a little bit to that, that LL that we talked about earlier, the leverage, don't confuse it with the other thing, which we'll get to. Dig into that a little bit further, man, like that the skills and having the courage to go and to role play, which can be uncomfortable, but, to go and practice, like you were saying, like Iverson or, Kobe, Michael, like they just practice like no one else, even when they were better. And I do role play probably 3 to 4 days a week still. And so, 20 years. So speak a little bit into that, how they can get more leverage in those conversations, and what that leverage is, going from a 2% conversion ratio just to a 3% conversion ratio, or going from a 1% conversion ratio to a 2% conversion ratio over that long enough time horizon can literally be $100,000 or so, right?
100%, man. It's the compound effect. If anybody hasn't read that book, go check it out. And that's really what it is. The reality is, when we all first start out at anything new, we suck at it. Like, just accept, like anything new, it could be playing an instrument or selling real estate or whatever. We start out and we suck. Yeah. And then we start sucking a little less. And then finally we actually end up getting kind of good at it. Why? Because even if I'm not so great, but the more I practice something, I'm naturally going to get better at it. So whether you're, self-proclaimed script master or just the timid one over there in the corner who refuses to do it, just go back to the things that we were taught in school. Like, the more I do something more, the more I apply myself to something, I'm going to naturally be better at it. Now, within that, with the help of coaching or leadership like Alex and others, that is where you can compress time, like you were saying earlier. So you can do that on your own, or you can do it on your own and or with the guidance of somebody who's maybe a couple chapters ahead in the book, and really reduce that curve and see bigger results faster. But no matter what, it's just simply the discipline, the time on task over time, whether you're practicing in the mirror to yourself for 15 minutes every morning, hop on the phone with a buddy and calling them for 5 minutes saying, here's my situation, let me role play through this with you, now it's your turn, see you later. You're not talking about what you did last night, okay? So that's a little bit of what I see, is just the willingness to either get uncomfortable now or get uncomfortable when you're really practicing on a live client. In what world does that make sense? Right? If you had your kid go take, learn from a teacher in school, like, would you rather they apply what they're learning and have it's from a professional teacher that knows what the heck they're talking about, or just go home and, figure it out on their own? Like, obviously, the shortened, compressed time is through the guidance or leadership and consult from somebody who's been there and is knowledgeable about it.
Yeah. Digging a little bit more into that. So when we talk about that leverage, and this is going to bleed into it, do you see that? You mentioned it earlier. They do the 5 over a certain period of time. Let's say it's 30 days or what have you. All of a sudden I get 3 listings, I get 2 buyers. So I got my leverage worked. Now I have some listings, which are the ultimate in leverage, right? Well, not the ultimate, but definitely more than a buyer situation, right? So Do you see people falling into a trap because they don't have that other thing that you talked about, discipline, and even, man, extra credit here if you want to dive into identity? And I know, Keller, Gary talk about that a lot, about identity. Do you think that there's kind of a little bit of the same in there, that discipline, maybe they wanted something so much, or maybe it was to your point about getting over $100,000 and then, oh, I made it, and then they take their foot off the gas. I know I'm kind of throwing a lot out there at you, but I guess from that leverage, don't confuse leverage with luxury, that, hey, I get to 100 and now I just take my foot off the gas. So we're kind of talking to that mid-level agent right now, or even maybe that team leader out there that has some agents that are actually doing some calling, and you have some, we talked about, passive income coming in, and you mentioned multi-level stuff. So maybe somebody out there with multi-level, once you start getting, some checks coming in from other places, do you think that's an identity thing? Do you think that people just don't have the discipline? What happens there? Do you see people fall into that trap?
I do. I fell into it myself. I think there's a little bit of I've arrived, kind of now I'm entitled attitude. Like, you don't know what I went through. I earned this, right? Now I can kick back and just kind of enjoy myself. And if that's your thing, that's your thing. Just understand you're taking a risk. What I put my family through, this was pre-real estate, when I was building this network marketing organization. Huge, massive downline. We were doing great, top 1% earners in this particular company. And I just kind of kicked back. And as quickly as it built, it fell just as quickly because I took my foot off the pedal. I thought I'd arrived. When you depend on other people for your single source of income, that can be a scary place, because if they don't feel like showing up today, it can be all ripped out from underneath you quickly. And so I've now learned to build a bunker and have that be a little bit more controlled environment. So yes, I see that a lot. And there's, to the team leads out there, here's maybe an unpopular or whatever, I don't care, opinion. I don't believe seventh level. I don't think seventh level exists. And you know what I'm referencing in the red book. Yeah. I think sixth level is a good thing. I don't think seventh level exists. I've seen too many people get hurt and burnt out or burned on a phantom vision. Show me somebody who's truly seventh level, meaning they're completely out of their own business. They're just sipping on a cocktail on the beach somewhere, not herding or tending to the sheep. Okay. I think sixth level is more appropriate. That's just my personal thing and what I've witnessed, because the minute you stop paying attention, things can go real squirrely really fast. So when it comes to the leveraged income versus luxury, leveraged is, hey, I'm going to pay this person to do a job, therefore I got that hour of my life back. Now I'm going to take that same hour and multiply it into something of a higher income generating category that produces more business. That's what the affluent talk about. You said this before the show, Alex. They understand, the affluent people out there understand dollar per hour. My job is to increase my dollar per hour capacity. That's why I'm personally a fan of transaction coordinators. What's TC work do, right? Maybe it gives you 5, 10, 15 hours of your life back over the course of a transaction that I'm paying somebody $300 or $400 to do for me. Now I can get over here and lead gen and make those 5 contacts and do those things again. That's leveraged, right, income. Luxury income, like you were saying, I love how you put it before the show, is that same scenario, me getting that hour back. Now I just choose to take off and go to the beach. So you got to be real careful of leveraged income versus luxury income. And I think you put that beautifully earlier.
You a Goggins fan? David Goggins?
Only half read the first one, Can't Stop Me or whatever.
Yeah, Can't Hurt Me.
So I don't follow him specifically.
Yeah. Well, he has, Huberman actually. Do you know Andrew Huberman? He does a lot of work on dopamine, and you mentioned Michael Phelps, you mentioned Olympians, you mentioned the guy that also was under the, in the batting cage. And this, again, dovetails back into, for me, the temperance. Is it to have that as a core belief, that not to confuse leverage with luxury. I think that so many people have, like, when I make it, that's it. Like, that's the goal. Well, actually, with the Stoic philosophy is that the obstacle actually is the way. So that doing that daily, so people say, Alex, why do you still get up at 4:30 and in the gym at 5? I'm like, that's why I'm here. That's who I am. It's not I'm doing that to get to the top of the hill and to be drinking margaritas. Like, that's who I am. I am committed, and frankly, that's part of my routine. It's the habits you mentioned, compound habits. It's like that sets me up for my day so that everything else kind of starts to fall in line. So that temperance piece, man, I think that as a core philosophy, people kind of start to take that on to really almost hold back in some ways from the pleasures, and furthermore, with Huberman, what he found is that actually what the greats like Phelps, he actually connects dopamine release. He does project himself into the future because dopamine levels actually go up in anticipation of an event. And you've probably heard of the guys that win the World Series and that they're depressed after, like, because they're like, I thought that it was going to be like I was going to have this high forever, but actually the movement up into that, the anticipation of that. Dopamine loves surprises. Oh, I missed that pitch, or I hit that one and it went out of bounds, but no, it stayed inbounds. Like, that's all part of that release. So to fall in love with the process, right? To train yourself to have that temperance of like, hey, this is the fun. Role playing is fun. I mean, I'm trying to like help people kind of like work into like what the greats do actually do and understand what works in your brain, what that satisfaction that comes from achieving something, certainly, but also we have to attach, in my opinion, if you want to not end up with the 7th level mentality, that you appreciate the journey. And, can you talk about that a little bit?
I would love to. Yeah. One of our coaches, Jen, says this all the time, to give credit where credit's due, but marry the process, divorce the results, and that is so spot on and profound if you think about it. And I speak in story and analogy. So here's another one. So I coached back in the day a 12U baseball team, go figure. I know. And imagine, just anybody listening to this, whether you're in sports or not, but just imagine for a second that you're the coach and the players, whether it's softball, baseball, doesn't matter, okay, come to the very first practice of the new season. Very first practice, haven't even played a game yet. And I present to them, or you present to them, this 5-foot-tall trophy saying, team, here's the trophy. You won. You won the league championship. You were so good, so intimidating. No other team wanted to play you. They all forfeited. Congratulations. You're the 2023 champs. Now, for probably about 20 minutes, we'd hoot and holler and say, woo, that's awesome. But there's going to be a point there, Alex, to what you're saying, that reality sets in and we start saying, well, hang on, wait a minute. Did we even really earn this? We haven't even played a game. Hell, we haven't even practiced yet. But we won the championship? That ain't cool. Like, that's the point. It's the blood, the sweat, the tears. It's the practice. It's the journey, not just the destination holding that trophy, that we've got to fall in love with, because it's that you're going to look back on podcasts like this, telling your story, how you overcame those challenges, how adversity was your greatest teacher. It's that stuff that people connect with the most, not just seeing you hoisting up the trophy. So I think that really speaks to really the point that you're making as well. It's not just about showing up and winning the game. It's actually more about the journey and the practice than we'd like to probably give credit for.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, we're towards the end here. I want to talk about the locker room and what you guys provide to the community. So talk to the audience a little bit about the locker room and how they can connect with you, because I know a lot of people that have gone through it. I haven't personally, but Jake, I endorse completely, as you've been edified through many others. So talk to us a little bit about the locker room and how people can connect with you, man.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you for the not so shameless plug here, I guess. But if people want to look at us, first of all, go to tlrnation.com. That's our website, tlrnation.com. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram as well. But really, who we're for and what we take a stance for is this. We are obsessively, unapologetically passionate to serving, in my opinion, the underserved. And that is new agents, dual career agents, specifically anyone who's either in their first 2 years of real estate or currently selling fewer than 25 homes per year. If that's you, You are our audience. You are our target. We are here tailor-made for you. The reality is, and this is not a bad thing, I'm not knocking anything, there's plenty of coaching companies out there for the quote-unquote already successful agent. And according to NAR, somewhere in the ballpark of well over 90% of NAR, as I said earlier, sells less than 25 homes per year. So that means all the other companies are competing for the red, shark-infested bloody waters, and I'm over here taking a stance for the little guy, who's just trying to make it. And you combine that with the fact that, what do they say, 87% of agents fail? We've got a problem. So we have made your business our business. We've planted a flag in the ground saying, no more. If Lil Ol Us can at least start moving that needle, in the opposite direction, at least we're doing something noble and a just cause for the industry, taking a stance and not just labeling somebody as unmotivated or, they're not going to make it, so let's just go over here and focus on the top dog. That is our audience. The way we go about that is generally locking arms with broker owners or team leads, forming a partnership, because knowing their rosters are probably flooded with those agents that make up that demographic. And we have this all-inclusive suite of things that we provide everybody through that formal partnership. So
awesome, man. Well, I believe in it. Again, I've spoken to people that have gone through the program, had success with it. And the last bit, man, you nailed the last piece of the 4 noble virtues of Stoicism. And the last one is justice. And you say, this is just. We are taking a stand. We are doing what's right in the face of a lot of uncertainty, doing the right thing, and you're taking care of people. And I want to honor that, man. So again, I want to honor you. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a blast, man. And let's do it again soon. Cool.
I want to, man. Thank you for everything you do. It's been fun.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll see you on the next one.